welcome to episode 7 of the Clean Energy Show. I'm Brian Stockton.
And I'm James Whittingham. Brian, I can't believe we've made it to episode 7. I mean, for one thing, there's a global pandemic that hasn't killed us, and we're in almost the elderly category. They're the category that a lot of people get sick in, frankly.
Yep.
But we're still here. Episode 7 is pretty good. No one's listening. We encourage people that aren't listening to please start listening, if you can hear me. Please start listening. Tell your friends.
I can't believe we hadn't thought of that before, but if we just ask people to start listening, that'll make the difference.
Well, it's still fun to do, and we're going to continue doing it. Pandemic or no, damn the pandemic, I say. Damn it all to hell. You know, I had a dentist appointment just on the cusp of when they were shutting down, and that's my 6-month cleaning. But the thing is, I had a little tooth tingle. Like there might be an issue that I'm not going to be able to address. And next thing you know, they're drilling a hole in my head a few months from now to fix it because I didn't quite make the cutoff. On the other hand, a lot of dentists in Regina here were at a convention where like a whole bunch of them were infected. So, including, I think, at least one from Saskatchewan. So I didn't really trust that either. Even at the time, I didn't trust that. It turned out a lot of them were infected. Let me just say this also. The whole situation in America that I talked about last week, it's coming true, and next week is going to come even more true. I'm not happy about that. I'm just saying it's bad down there. And,
no, it's not good.
In fact, I think you should clean anything you get from America as best you can, and I think that's something we can talk about because you got a car delivered, did you not?
I did, yeah. My Tesla Model 3 Standard Range Plus was delivered last night at about 7 o'clock, 7 p.m.
7 o'clock. Was the sun out?
Yeah, the sun was still out. They put it on a truck in Calgary at around, 10 or 11 in the morning. And
really?
Yeah, guy showed up at about 7. Yeah, I mean, it's strange to be taking delivery of an expensive vehicle in the middle of a global pandemic. But, we ordered the car way back in December, and it was a different world back then.
Oh, yes. It was a different world a day ago.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Things are changing quickly.
And listen, by the way, if you need emergency dental work, I could watch some YouTube videos and brush up on that, and I could perform that for you.
Well, the thing is, you have the time, right? I was going to ask you, what are you doing these days?
No, it's learning things like emergency dental surgery is it's high on my list.
What are you doing with yourself? You're an educator. What are you doing with yourself in this time off, or do you have time off?
Yeah, so I am a university professor, and my classes are wrapping up early. Some classes are continuing, moving online, but I teach film production, and we sort of decided that there was a little too much equipment involved that the students would need, and making films is often in groups, which is not a great idea. So, I'm just doing my final grading and kind of wrapping my classes up early, whereas others are moving online.
Are you going into the office, or are you working from home?
No, working from home. Haven't been in for at least a week or more. We've got a full house here. My partner is working at home now, too, so we're all just hunkered down and waiting it out.
Yeah, I don't like that part. My partner is working at home, too, and she's like through a thin wall. I just can't feel like I can be myself, my normal podcasting self. I've got a comedy podcast where I shout and scream and do things like that, and now everybody's home, so I feel constricted.
Yeah, we're trying to just go out for groceries, and that's it.
Yeah, and we're sending one person, so yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. Yeah. And disinfecting. Oh, here's some leaf news before we get to your car delivery, and I want to really get into that.
Sure.
I had a stone chip.
Oh, no.
During the pandemic. My daughter and I went for a drive to get out of the house, a zero-emission drive, I might add. And she noticed a stone chip that I didn't notice. And so our neighbor works at the dent clinic, a dent place here. And she was really gracious. We texted her, and she said, come on in, our shop's open, which surprised me. I sent my son there to do it. He's 16, and far more likely to survive COVID than I am. So I sent him and got it repaired. So yes, that is you see, my worry, like my dental thing is, well, if I leave that unattended, I mean, because it was a pretty hefty stone chip, like it looked like it could have spread into a crack quite easily. if I left it unattended, boom, I'd be out of a windshield. And, it's one of the many, many things that are weird right now. Anyway, so last night, I want to get into your car, if you don't mind.
But yeah, I was just going to say, stone chips are very common here. So that's one thing I am kind of worried about with the new car is that I should probably get the extra insurance cover.
And I bet it'll be expensive for a Tesla,
windows.
too. You should check it and price it out because...
yeah.
Well, go ahead. I want to know every detail about your car delivery because it is a pandemic. And most people listening, we have casual enthusiasts listening to our show. So... what happens when you get the delivery of a Tesla? Like how much you ordered in December, and when's the first indication that you would be getting? Well,
yeah, that was maybe about 3 or 4 weeks ago when they said that when we got a VIN number. So until you get a VIN number, it's all very vague.
Is it officially yours when you get a VIN number?
Yeah, when you get the VIN number, then a car has been made or selected for you. And so at that point, they said it would be 2 to 6 weeks from now. I think it ended up to be about 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. And for where we are, the cars go to Calgary, which is an 8-hour drive away. And then it happened kind of suddenly, like we knew that it was getting close. And then they called us yesterday morning and said, oh, it's going on a truck like right now and that you'll get it tonight. So
wow,
we weren't totally prepared because you still need to get license plates for it, right? And we hadn't done that. We could have done it. They had sent us the paperwork. But, we didn't know it was coming, so we didn't go. And of course, you don't want to go unless you have to because of the global pandemic.
Oh, yes. It keeps coming back to the global pandemic.
Yeah. So here in Saskatchewan, our license plates and insurance, it's all a government monopoly. We get them through SGI. That's the only place you can get your plates and insurance, which on the one hand makes it nice and simple. But of course, I went to the website for SGI and they're like, oh, don't be ridiculous. We're not open.
So the website's not even open?
What's that?
The website's not even open?
Yeah, no, the website was open.
Well, is it functional? I mean, you can't do anything online, obviously.
It said that we're doing everything online. We're doing everything by phone. But if you need plates, that is one of the things that has to be done in person. So there was a number to call. It said, call this number to set up an appointment. And we called this number and they're like, we're not making appointments. What are you, nuts?
Oh my God, this is an amazing story. I had no idea that this would be an integral part of the story that is remarkable in itself.
Yeah,
historians will be listening to this podcast millennia from now, marveling at the great outbreak of 2020 and how somebody tried to get plates for their precious Tesla. Go ahead.
Yeah, so what they told us, what SGI said on the phone was that the independent retailers were still open and operating. So you have to find one of those. So it's a government monopoly for plates, but there are independent insurance places that can give you plates as well. They work as sort of franchises.
Yeah, that's what I normally use. And there's stuff even close to me that are open Sundays even, like and 9 o'clock every night, weeknight. Yeah,
well, we have a place near us, which we also get our house insurance from them. And so that's, typically where we go to get plates. So I went to their website and they're, of course, explaining that they're closed as well. But if you need plates, you can call. So we called. We did.
What, do you go to somebody's house and he chisel it out with a hammer or something? Like, what's going on here?
That's right. Yeah, homemade plates out of stone chiseling. No, so we did, all the payment and information, everything over the phone. And they said, okay, well, now you can come to the office and pick it up. And we said, fantastic. Their office is only, 2 or 3 blocks from our house. And they said, just phone when you're in the parking lot and somebody can meet you to hand out the plates.
That's amazing. We
did that. And my partner called and said, yeah, we're here. And then she went and stood by the door and nothing happened. And soon somebody realized we were at the wrong location. So this place has 2 locations. So somebody figured that out and opened the door and said, oh, you're supposed to go to the other place. So then we had to drive a 10-minute drive to the other place, pick up the plates. We just parked in front. We called them, said we're here. And then a woman came out and she actually slid the plate through the mailbox slot in the door.
Wow. Holy shit.
Yeah. So they didn't have to open the door.
Am I dreaming? This is remarkable. Jesus.
So we got the plates through the mail slot. We took it home. We waited. The car arrived like about an hour, like around 6 p.m. We got a text from the truck driver, and he said, "I'll be there at about 7." And sure enough, about 7, he was there. It was a large black truck.
Was it a car hauler truck?
Yeah, I guess that's what it's specifically for. It was quite like tall.
A semi-trailer?
Not
Did you
as
see at the dealerships dropping off cars, or was it
not as big as that. It could only haul 2 cars. It looked bigger than that. It's like you put 2 cars at the back, stacked one on top of each other, and then the front part of the truck looked like it could also hold some other stuff. But the back part was for hauling 2 cars.
And it's a trailer on a
on a semi-type truck. Just maybe not quite as big as a full semi.
Now, I heard other people, see, we don't have a Tesla store in Regina. We're a city of like 200,000, so people have to get their servicing done sometimes, or the servicing people come out every now and again to our city. So you had to, I heard that one of our friends had to deliver it at a shopping mall. So this went right to your home, right?
Yeah, it came right to our home, and there was 2 cars in the back. So there was a dual motor Model 3 stacked above ours, a blue one. Bastards. And so somebody else in Regina that night got delivered a dual motor blue Model 3. And I did want to mention, so he was parked about 15 minutes in front of our house, unloading the car and everything, left the diesel motor running the whole time, which, as you know, is a pet peeve of mine.
Right. We discussed that last week.
Yeah, so it was almost what you would call a no-touch delivery. So Tesla is trying this out where they can do a no-touch delivery where you don't have to touch anybody. But of course, the truck driver had to back the car out. So he had to touch the car. I mean, somebody has to touch the car.
Yeah, the auto summon doesn't work off a truck yet, I imagine. But one day it probably will.
One day it probably will. So he had to get in, back it off the truck. But other than that, it was a no-touch delivery. So then he took a bunch of pictures of the car on his phone, and then he took a picture of my partner's driver's license to confirm that we were who we were. So we didn't have to touch him. The paperwork was all in the car. The key cards were also in the car.
Now, does your Tesla app just automatically work once you own the car on your phone? Because that unlocks the car as well, right?
No, that was a bit of a delay. So they have to get confirmation that we received the car before they can turn that on. So as of now, we don't have the app access yet.
Really?
Yeah. So we had to, last night they emailed us a form that we had to sign, scan it, and send it back. So they got that this morning. And once they get that, then they turn on the app access. So
let me interrupt you. Let's paint a picture here. It's a Tesla Model 3, which is, for people who don't know, it's the base, sort of the cheaper, smaller, technically mid-sized car in Canada. Yeah, it's a sedan, and they have some premium cars, the X and the S, and the Model 3 is their mass-produced car, and you are getting the standard range model. First of all, what color is it?
It's white, which is the sort of base color that it comes with. If you want a color other than white, you have to pay a bit of money.
It used to be black, interestingly.
Black used to be the default color. And for whatever reason, they switched it to white, which I was quite happy about because I would actually much prefer white to black.
Otherwise, you got to pay how much more? $1,400, $1,600 or something?
Yeah, Canadian dollars, it's something like that if you want another color. But I like white, so I was happy with that.
It's good because all the cars would be black otherwise. You know, too many would be black. Yeah. So if they switch it up from time to time, that's nice.
Maybe they'll do that again. But basically, we kind of got the car that still qualifies for the federal rebate. So you get a $5,000 rebate for buying an electric car in Canada. And if you were going any higher in trim levels, it's not eligible. So we got sort of the highest trim level that you still get the.
So the person with a dual motor on he or she is not getting the 5,000.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, they're rich, aren't they?
It's strange how much people have money for cars, but
not anymore. We'll be back to horses in no time. The way things are going.
Yeah.
So, are you trading anything in? Did they take a car away when you did this?
No, we did try to trade in one of our cars, and you send them pictures and give them all the info, and then they send you back a price. But the price was too low. We couldn't accept that. And I guess that's a thing. Tesla's known for giving poor trade-in value. So
compared
we are
to even a dealership?
I think so, yeah. It was about $5,000 lower, I think, than it should have been.
Okay, so what did you end up doing on that front?
So right now we have 3 cars, and we're not probably going to sell any of them until the global pandemic is over, but we're going to sell at least one of the cars.
Everything.
It affects everything. So we'll sell my Hyundai first. I've got a 2012 Hyundai Veloster.
Why don't you pitch it on the show here? Maybe somebody wants to pick it up, one of our 3 listeners.
cleanenergyshow@gmail.com if anyone wants to buy it. It's a low mileage 2012 Hyundai Veloster. It's a great car.
Yeah.
So we'll sell that one in a couple of months when the pandemic is over. Then we'll be down to 2 cars. We might even try to go down to 1 car. That would really be ideal, just in terms of saving money and everything. But the trade-in it wasn't going to work. I couldn't accept an offer that low.
Okay. Wow. When did they make you that offer?
That was way back in December, I think.
Okay. So it was before the turmoil that we
Yeah. And it would have been a really easy way to do it because, yes, like they would have dropped off the new car and then taken the trade-in off at the same time. So it would have been super easy, but just couldn't do it.
How did you price out your car, your old car? How did you determine its value that offer was too low?
I just looked on Auto Trader, put in the stats and, what are they selling for right now on Auto Trader?
Right.
And just seemed too low.
Okay. So the guy shows up. The streets are empty, more or less. How are you feeling about this? Like, I can't imagine how exciting that would be.
Yeah, it was super exciting. We, the whole family, we went for a bit of a drive and I was able to kind of put the hammer down and see how fast it goes. And, it's the slowest model that they sell, but it's still 0 to 100K in 5.6 seconds. So, it is crazy, crazy fast. Hard to imagine getting a faster one than that, but, they do exist. So, it was real fun. But like I say, we don't have the app access yet, and there is a lot of the functionality that's tied with the app. It does take a long time to learn. Like it's not like a regular car. So everything, the interface for the car is all through the screen. So it's a bit like learning a new, operating system, basically. So, it was a little bit confusing. Actually, the turn signals turned out to be the most confusing thing. I was driving down the street like an idiot with my turn signal flashing, and I couldn't figure out how to turn it off.
Such a boomer.
But the turn signal is different than what I've ever used before. It sort of has 2 positions, like 1 click for lane change and then 2 clicks for a full turn. But the stock always goes back to the middle position, and that's the confusing part. So I had turned it up 2 clicks, so for a right turn, but because I didn't make a full turn, it didn't turn off automatically. And it just took me a while to figure out that you just have to go down 1 click to cancel it.
Okay. Wow. So how's your family feeling about this when they saw the car? What was their experience like?
Yeah, I think everyone enjoyed it. So my kids sat in the back seat. They noticed that the floor is kind of high.
Really?
So, yeah, and I haven't even sat in the back seat.
Your kids are pretty old. Do you want to give us their ages?
Yeah, 19 and 15.
Mm-hmm.
And because the batteries are in the floor, as you sit in the back seat, your knees are kind of up a little bit because, sort of a low seat but a high floor, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So they noticed that. I noticed how quickly the climate system will drain your battery. Like I went out this morning, so I charged it overnight up to 90%.
First of all, what's the range on it? The stated range?
It is 402 kilometers according to the Canada EnerGuide.
Okay, and this is the mid-level model here.
Yeah, standard range plus.
Is there a lower range model available in Canada easily, or is that the tricky one to buy?
If you go, you have to call somebody, but there is.
Yeah, but this is the basic one that people buy, right?
Yeah, it's the lowest trim level that you can buy on the website. If you want to call them, so it's the standard range plus, if you want to phone them, you can go down to the standard range, which is they just take away a few more features and you save a bit of money. And then there's a weird model available in Canada with only 150 kilometers of range, which you can also buy, but I'm sure no one has.
150?
No, well, they had to. So
That's
there's
like
this
less
rebate.
than my Leaf was rated at pretty much when it was new in 2013.
Here's the thing, but it's software limited. So
Right.
about a year ago, Canada came out with this, rebate program for electric vehicles to encourage people to buy electric vehicles. But none of the Tesla vehicles qualified because they had to have a starting price at, I think, below 40,000, I think is what it was. Tesla doesn't have anything in that range in Canadian dollars. So they introduced one model, and I think it's $39,999, and they software limited it to 150 kilometers of range with the plan that no one will ever buy that car, but it makes the next two trim levels up qualify for the rebate, just the weird way that they wrote the rules for this. So as long as you have a model that starts under 40, then you can have other models up to 55 that still qualify.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. All right. So your families, do they do an awe when it comes off the truck and say that is one amazing looking thing, or what are they thinking?
I don't know. They're a little more reserved than that.
Of course they are. But do they? Where are they? Are they behind you on this? Are they the enthusiastic for electric cars and Tesla in general? Where are they?
Well, I think they're interested, I guess. I don't know. I don't have a lot to say on that.
Okay, they're interested. Were they amazed when you hit the floor pedal there?
Yeah, I think that's always impressive. Yeah, for sure.
Where did you do it? On a highway, on a street, on where did you do it?
Just went over to the ring road so I could go on the on-ramp there and put the hammer down.
So you went from a stop position to full on?
No, I was rolling a little bit. So
okay.
I didn't do the full 0 to 100.
Did they scream? Did their teeth go back in their throat? What happened?
Again, they're very reserved, so I don't have a lot to share on that.
Okay. When I do that sort of thing, I'm swearing a lot. Like, and wondering if I'm going to pass out because, I literally almost passed out once. I felt nauseous and dizzy when somebody did that.
It's a strange feeling because, you don't normally go that quick in a car, especially right from, the torque is available right away.
So it amplifies the effect. Like it'll feel faster than a similarly fast car. Yeah. Because it has all that torque off the line and because it's quiet, you don't really, your ears aren't telling you that you should be going fast and yet you are. So it's a weird experience.
And the pavement was nice and dry. So, there was no traction issues. Like we still have a bit of snow around, but the road was clear. So it just, no tire slip or anything. It was just all the power to the wheels right away. It was kind of amazing.
Was there anyone on the roads when you were doing this?
Yeah, there's a few people around driving. Yeah, not too bad though.
So are you excited about this? I know it's a weird feeling to be doing this during a dark cloud pandemic and not knowing what tomorrow brings, but you've wanted to do this your whole life. How does it feel to have an electric car?
Yeah, it feels great, but it's definitely muted. It's it doesn't seem like the time to be celebrating anything, let alone something as silly as a car. So it's kind of muted everything, but I'm looking forward to kind of getting the app working. Like there's still lots to kind of learn and do. So
has your partner driven it yet?
That phase of it. No, she had driven one previously, test drove from our friend, but no, she hasn't driven this one yet.
And your son has a learner's license. You going to let him drive?
Yeah, both my sons have a learner's license. Sure, they'll drive it at some point, but I would prefer to have like a used Leaf as a second car, and maybe that could be the one that they drive. I'm a little nervous giving them such a fast car to drive, but I'm sure they'd be responsible.
Isn't there something where you can restrict it for your kids? I mean, this is a whole rabbit hole you're going to have to go down because there's all kinds of, there's dog mode. There's all these things that, which is great. There's the romance mode, which has a fireplace and heat coming out. Yep. All these things you got to try, which, it's good that there's a global pandemic in a way because you can take the time to actually figure everything out.
Yeah, because I think you're right that there is a way that you can restrict the speed of certain, and you can set it even for yourself so that you only go like 5 kilometers above the speed limit or something, things like that. So I'll definitely have to explore that.
And I think they download the app on their phone, and then the Tesla knows it's a kid and that they're restricted. You don't think they're actually going to speed though?
I don't think so. They'll be fine.
You said they're reserved. Yeah. They're not going to go burning rubber all over the place. But it is a powerful car. Have you tried out autopilot at all?
Right. Oh, yeah. I was going to mention that too. So as we were driving, and the car came with 6 kilometers on the odometer, so obviously super new. As we were driving around, there's a calibration circle that's happening. So the autopilot's not available right away because it's still calibrating everything. So we drove around long enough to get that circle to complete because, we were trying to engage autopilot and it wasn't working.
And I'll just point out, Brian, that it's not snowy out, that the streets here are dry, because even in a lot of places in Canada, it's snowy.
Yeah.
And the streets are almost summer-like here.
The streets are dry, but we did notice that, the painted lines were quite poor in a lot of the places that we were driving, which is a typical problem we have around here. Because of the harsh weather, the painted lines on the road don't last very well. So, that's going to be an issue as well. I believe, it helps to have good lines on the road. But we drove it around till the calibration circle was completed, but it still wouldn't let us engage autopilot. So I think that might be related to some settings and the fact that we don't have the app access yet. So
right.
I can report back next week, but I'm sure that once we get the app access, we can test out the autopilot.
So what are your immediate plans for the car then? Are you going to dig into the manual? Are you going to just play with it? So, what are you going to do?
Yeah, both. Look at, tutorials, YouTube videos, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot to set up in the apps, and the way you can program your driver positions as well. So I can set up the seat and the steering wheel where I like it and save that as my driving position. So we got to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
We got to put in our Netflix password so that we can watch Netflix in the car, that kind of thing.
Got to do that. Oh,
I didn't really dive into it, but of course there's games on there, and I did try and play Asteroids for a few seconds. Asteroids was kind of the video game of my youth that I used to play. And I was like, oh, that's fun. Asteroids is on there. But of course, it doesn't really work at all because the controls are completely different from what the game was. So that would be a full-time job in itself, learning how to use the controls, the different controls in order to play Asteroids.
So you basically have little balls on your wheel, your steering wheel, right? Those are the only controllers, the hardwired controllers.
And turning the steering wheel itself seemed to do something as well, but scrolling the wheels worked.
So you're not doing it while you're driving
better, but yeah, no. Well, it's parked. I'm assuming
you would look
the
like
game
an idiot
mode
in your driveway doing
parked.
that if you're turning your steering wheel trying to dodge asteroids.
Yeah, but I have the info sheet in front of me. Like every car comes with a Canada Enter Guide sticker or sheet. So I thought I would share that. So the fuel consumption is listed as 1.7 liters per 100 kilometers combined. Range 402 kilometers, and it says the annual fuel cost based on 20,000 kilometers of driving would be $387 a year.
Okay.
So presumably that's, about a third or a quarter of what it would be with a gasoline car.
Wow. Well, that's interesting because gas prices, if I may transition away from the car here, and I just want to remind people that Brian and I are social distancing. We are recording each end of our podcast in our homes. Brian's in the bomb shelter. I'm in my bedroom. Gas stations in Kentucky have gas below $1 now for a gallon.
Wow.
And Electrek, the primary news site for clean energy and electric cars, says that it is still cheaper at that price to drive an EV, which is amazing to me.
Yeah, I saw a price in Canada as low as 66 cents a liter, so it's just incredibly low.
Unprecedented in, I don't know how many years. I mean, somebody's got to look into that, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, I think back to the early 80s is where we're at in terms of prices.
Oh, crap. Right. That's just remarkable. Anyway, a lot of people have been wondering, well, where does this leave the clean energy industry with the collapsing economy and so forth? And will people even have the stomach to make further hard choices when the economy is trying to recover? It's interesting that I read an article that low interest rates are predicted for not only the short term, but the long term, like at least a number of years. And that is very key to wind and solar because of the project viability benefit tremendously from low interest rates is one of the biggest things that can help that industry. So I think there is some hope. I don't know where this leaves the electrification of transportation, but as far as energy generation goes, wind and solar projects benefit tremendously from low interest rates because it takes a big loan just to get them going, whether it's a small project or an enormous project. So I have some hope there anyway.
Yeah.
And what else did you want to talk about this week aside from your deluxe new Model 3 from Tesla?
Well, I know we talked about bikes last week, so I have a bit of a rant about bicycles.
Okay.
If you're interested in hearing that. Yeah, well, I sort of alluded to this last week, but I find shopping for bicycles to be kind of irritating and confusing and complicated. Of course, even more so since we're sort of delving into electric bicycles. But yeah, I wanted to sort of share this and get your thoughts on it because I know you're a bit more of a cycling guy than me. I would call myself more of a casual cyclist.
Mm-hmm.
But, I'm also picky. So like, I'm not going to be, knee deep in cycling stuff, but I am kind of picky about bicycles and I'm going to want a decent one. So yeah, I was just going to share my story. So I bought 3 adult bikes in my life. Like as an adult, I've bought 3 bikes. And I just wanted to go through it because this irritates me so much.
Okay, please.
I bought the first one in the early 1990s. I was living in Toronto and I needed a bicycle for getting around town. And I went into a nice bike shop on Bloor Street called Broadway Cycle, I think it was. And a couple of friends recommended that. And I went in, didn't really know what I wanted. I wanted like basically a mountain bike, but something that I would ride around the city. And I walked in, they sold me a Nishiki mountain bike. It was about $330. And it was fantastic. I absolutely loved that bike. I rode it for at least 15 years or so. And then I gave it to you. Do you remember that?
I do remember that because that got me into mountain biking. Just to a quick overview, I grew up in a household with my brother being a road cyclist, and he would tweak the weight of his bicycle down to a tenth of a gram, everything had to be light, and he would spend thousands and thousands of dollars on lighter components that were only tiny bit lighter.
Yeah.
And then he would tweak the bicycle, and I sort of learned bike mechanics from him. So the idea of a heavy, it's the difference between a sports car and a big 4-wheel jacked up truck to me. That was my thinking at the time. But I was also quite heavy. And I had, in Toronto before that, I had a sort of a hybrid bike with smaller wheels, and they kept breaking. The spokes would pop because I was so heavy. So that was a problem. And I thought, well, okay, I stayed away from cycling for a while, and you giving me this old bike actually got me into it because I tried it. And I said, I can go on a gravel trail, a flat gravel trail. How bizarre. Nothing bad is happening. And then I started doing little hills and things and going off curbs and there was a whole bunch of freedom involved. So yeah, that actually got me into it. So yeah, thanks for that.
Well, that's great to hear, but I kind of regret giving you that bike because it relates to the rest of my story, which is I haven't been able to replicate that experience. So like the Nishiki mountain bike, it worked great, but after about 10 years, it kind of needed kind of constant like sort of tinkering and repairs and stuff. One of the shifters had to be replaced. Like it was starting to get a little bit finicky. So I thought, well, maybe it's time to get a new bike. Gave it to you. What I ended up buying was a Trek comfort bike.
Oh,
it was
big
like
mistake.
$700 or $800, total mistake. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. Like I say, I'm more of a casual cyclist, but I sort of thought it was kind of the trend at the time. I was getting older and I thought, oh, okay, these comfort bikes seem interesting. More comfortable. That makes sense. Bought it, but I never liked it. It just felt heavy and clunky.
It's an upright position. Yeah, the Trek makes... I'm a big anti-Trek person.
Is that right?
Yeah, unless you get into the high-end stuff and you're spending $2,000-$3,000, their low-end stuff is not good. I'm not happy with Trek.
And it was still $700 or $800, but it was partly my fault because I just didn't realize that wasn't the right bike for me. Like, I didn't think I cared about the weight, for instance, but then once I owned it for a while, I realized, I don't like heavy bikes. This is kind of ridiculous. So I thought, okay, well, now I got to go out and buy another bike. And basically went out to try and find something more like the Nishiki mountain bike that I owned. And I ended up with a Cannondale that was really light. I think you'd call it a hybrid. It's got the thinner tires and a straight handlebar. It was also $700 or $800, but a really nice light bike. And I felt, much better about that purchase. And I liked that bike a lot more. But within owning it of like a couple of months, I got 2 flat tires.
Really?
And at first I thought I was just unlucky, but then I started Googling it and you hear all this stuff about, the, bikes come with really thin tires, as stock, unless you're spending, a huge amount of money. So even though I'd spent $700 or $800 on this bike, it came with, I'm told from internet research, thin tires prone to flats. So then I had to go on and I actually bought replacement tires for it because it's like, well, I can't keep changing these tubes all the time. I'd never had a single flat with that Nishiki mountain bike in the 15 years that I'd owned it.
Well, that's because they're mountain bike tires. They're like...
they're mountain bike tires.
Half-inch thick rubber.
I'll give you that. But still, it was disappointing. But I did the research. I bought some better tires that have better protection. I haven't had a flat since. But it just really annoys me that, in the early 90s, I could just go into a bike shop in Toronto, come out with something, a decent bike that I really liked without having to do a whole ton of research. And now it just seems like just too damn complicated.
Well, I'm going to say to you, back off. Back off. You're going too far now. Mm-hmm. I think your mountain bike tires, of course, are going to last in the city for a long time. They're thick. And they have, thick treads on them, so they're going to protect you. And that mountain bike probably came with cheap-ass tires, too. It's just the nature of the tires were not as bad. You have to, you kind of have to upgrade. It's not that expensive, I don't think, for the tires with protection, but it might be $50 instead of $25 or something like that, but it's certainly worth it, especially with a non-mountain bike. And you probably bought the right bike because if you're not going off-road and if you're only going on light trails like that are basically flat and you're not going over rocks, mountain bikes are designed literally to go over rocks and tree stumps. Mm-hmm. And that's just, it's a wasted effort to even buy a mountain bike unless you're going to use it for mountain biking. Certainly as a commuter bike in Toronto, I don't think a mountain bike made sense. Like my wife had a similar bike. It might have even been the same brand, and I changed the tires on that to harder, with a heavier inflation, and basically smooth, so you don't have the rolling resistance. You're wasting a lot of rolling resistance with a mountain bike. Well, I'm sorry, but if you're traveling across Toronto and you're spending, 25% more energy to do it, I say that's an issue. I'm a
casual cyclist. I should be able to go into my local bike shop, spend $700 or $800 on a bike, and not have to worry about changing the tires it came with. That's ridiculous.
Oh, this from the guy who couldn't change his signal light on his new car. Come on. I'll be sure to stay off your lawn.
This is stuff that and you're aware of because you're more in depth in the cycling kind of stuff. But, as a casual cyclist, I just find it extremely irritating.
Okay, well, I don't know what to tell you. I'll say this. There's a lot of cheap-ass bikes out there that you want to avoid, and the first thing that happens is they're heavier. So if you're carrying it up on apartment steps, even if you're just carrying it over a sidewalk bump, it's a pain in the butt to have a bike that is much heavier than it needs to be. Secondly, the drivetrain components, the shifters will be cheap and the brakes will be cheap. And they'll start not working right away. And they don't have a good spring action to them and they won't shift properly. So yeah, you got to go to a bike store and buy a bike, but you got to tell them what your needs are and not what you want, and actually listen to them, and they might help you. But I'll assure you that, a new car will have the cheapest tires on there. And because they're so desperate to make the cars more fuel efficient now and meet fuel efficient standards, that they're putting on lower rolling resistant tires on cars too, just to get that extra fuel economy. But then they'll also probably wear out quickly too. So, yeah.
Well, I think cars is a great comparison because I consider myself sort of a casual car enthusiast too, but I'm way more confident about doing the research and buying a car than I am about doing the research and buying a bike. It just seems, and it's part that there's just so many choices, and especially now when we're starting to look into e-bikes. So as we discussed last week, I do think people should go into a reputable bike shop to buy their bikes rather than buying off the internet or from Walmart or something.
Yes.
But as we get into the e-bike realm here and you go to our local bike shops, there's a couple great ones in town.
Yeah.
They're just crazy expensive. So then you start looking for e-bikes on the web, on the Amazon, and it's just such an endless supply. Some of them from China. It's like, well, should I get this one?
No,
It's
they're all
cheaper.
from China. All the components are from China. Always. And they manufacture, as I said last week, millions of them. And they've been around for so long that most of them are good components. But here's the thing, and batteries can be tricky too.
Yeah, well, I've been shopping for a kind of a lightweight folding bike, e-bike, because that's kind of what I'm looking for. And I've found a couple of possibilities on the web. There's really nothing in my price range at bike shops. I mean, maybe I should just go out and spend $3,000 on one, but it just seems insane to me to spend that much on a bike.
It is a lot of money, and you really should spend some time. If you're going to buy a folding bike with 20-inch wheels, smaller wheels, then you should definitely try it out for a while, because you could find that you're very disappointed.
Yeah, that's the other problem, of course. Yeah, where we are, unless you're buying from a local bike shop, it's very hard to try any of this stuff out.
One thing I do recommend to people is to familiarize yourself with the brands that the bike stores sell. And with Trek as a bit of an exception, some people might be offended by that. But there's like your Cannondales like you bought, and there's your Trek, and then there's Giant, which I have a lovely Giant bike, and there's a few others, Specialized. Those, if you can find those used and you don't have the know-how, you can actually look up a video and figure out how to tune up the shifting and improve the shifting if it's a little off. Or you can take it to your bike shop and add another $100 to it and buy a used bike. I've got some very good deals, although I've spent a lot of time looking for them. I have it bookmarked and I check it, practically every day. And occasionally I find something and jump on it. So that's one way to go. But anyway, I still have e-bike fever. I'm still actively searching for an e-bike, and I'm disappointed that there's not much in Canada. There's a couple of online retailers in Canada, and they're so expensive. They're more expensive than if you order directly from China with AliExpress. And one of the e-bike gurus, who's actually one of the contributors to Electrek, he has an ebikeschool.com and a YouTube channel, and he recommends, of course, he's getting a bit of a commission, but he's tried the certain seller in AliExpress. So I'm thinking about buying a kit, upgrading my bike, and that would include a rear drive wheel, a wheel that goes on the back of your bike that has a hub motor in it. The hub of the wheel has a motor in it. Most people, though, are buying actual pre-made bicycles by the same manufacturers that have a mid-drive motor, which is where your pedals are.
Yeah.
But that also puts a lot of stress on your chain. And I figure because I weigh so much that I don't want my chain to be breaking all the time, because there's nothing worse than a chain that breaks and you're far away, as if your motor and your battery is taking you dozens of kilometers away from home or something, and you have no chain, you're hooped, as we say.
And I'm just saying, I want to replicate the experience I had in the early 90s. I just walked into one bike shop knew my price range, got a bike. It was fantastic. I'm willing to pay more because, inflation over the years and hopefully get an e-bike. But it doesn't look like I'm going to have that kind of choice anytime soon.
No, it does not. And I hate to say it, but the best value for a bike is Walmart. The e-bikes on there are getting good reviews. They're made with the same components. They're probably heavier than they need to be. Than if you bought, say, a bike store bike, they would be heavier than that. And the components might be iffy. I'm happy to always switch out my components, like, say, the derailleur or something, to a little bit better one. Yeah, but you get the whole bike and everything else for $800. So that's, and the reviews have been tremendous.
Yeah, I'll have a look. I don't suspect they have any folding e-bikes, but
they do. Yeah, they get all kinds.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, so does Costco. You gotta, but they're not the big selling ones, so you can't see the reviews. You'll have to maybe search YouTube for some of the reviews. I don't know. Anyway, there's a global pandemic out there, and we're talking about e-bikes. But I'm going to pull I'm going to pull it. I'm going to pull the lever. It's going to take. Now I'm looking at like June 1st if I order today. So because it comes over literally on a ship. Because the batteries, you can't ship the batteries, eh?
Oh, right. Yeah.
You can't put those on a plane because they'll bring down the plane. So
that they have to come on a boat.
Yeah. And that takes a long time. So.
Yeah. I just opened up the Walmart Canada page and there's a T-Zone electric folding bike here for $839. It's on sale.
Oh, well, you're set.
So maybe.
You see, the thing is, maybe. Brian, the nice thing about that is you can slap it together, try it for a couple of days and take it back, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly with Costco, that would not be an issue. If you, I bought my video projector there just for the notion that I have no idea what I'm getting until I get it because it's not in a store. And you can take things back so easily at Costco. Hopefully,
and
Walmart
maybe perhaps I'll end up buying it from Walmart. But I'm, still irritated that, I consider you an expert in the field of buying bikes, and I feel like I shouldn't need advice from an expert. This should be simple. I should be able to just walk into my local bike shop and buy one.
Well, that's what most people do. And most people walk into the Walmart and buy it. And they buy crappy bikes there too. And they shouldn't. It's not worth it. Because they will fall. Like, we had a friend of ours I helped buy a bike. They bought one at Canadian Tire. And it literally fell apart. Like the chain was probably half a foot too long. It was wobbling around. There was no tension.
Mm-hmm.
They brought it back and they did not want to take it back. And I got into a bit of a confrontation with the general manager of the store. They did not want to take it back. And I was just so disgusted at everything. Like the brakes were misaligned. Somebody could have killed themselves in that thing. So it is hard.
But again, they needed an expert advocate to even make that happen, to make make them take the return.
Well, obviously, if you walk into a bike shop today and buy their, if you bought a mountain bike today at a bike shop, Brian, you would have the same experience. It's just because it would be a good bike and you'd never get flats because it was a mountain bike. But anything else, you might get a flat. I don't think it'd be any different.
All right.
That's my thinking. Because they really do know their stuff.
There is a few choices on Walmart, so I guess that's the next rabbit hole I'm into.
What else do you want to talk about this week?
I think that's about it for me.
Okay, well, I just wanted to point out, and I forgot to mention this last week, you remember how the Cybertruck launch was, the Tesla pickup truck, that they threw steel balls and it actually broke the window and it wasn't supposed to do that? But then it got so much attention from that. Well, there's a news story out that said that Tesla sales shot up after that event, that it was not a negative event. And I started to suspect that a day or two later, that they are getting so much press that it's actually a good thing that the windows broke on it. By the way, how's your Tesla stock doing? You anticipating it going up again?
It's been rebounding the last couple of days. So, here's hoping. But as we've discussed, I don't know. I think there's going to be more downside in the next month with what's going to happen in the U.S. So I'm not that hopeful.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering if it goes down quite a bit, I might actually get in. So we'll see. We do know that it's strong and it's going to go back up with the rest of the economy.
When they smashed the windows on the Cybertruck, I did think for a while that maybe that was intentional. It seems like probably it wasn't.
No, what are you, a conspiracy theorist? Come on. And you can cure COVID by gargling bleach.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, let me get to that.
Okay. Don't do that, people. I assume the 3 people listening to us are smart anyway. I'm going to remind people, Brian, where they can get a hold of us. We're on Twitter at CLN Energy Show. I'm thinking about changing that. It's hard to tell people CLN. What about Clean Energy Podcast? Not that that's the title of the show, but it's the title of the web. I don't even know that's available, but yeah. Anyway, CLN Energy on Twitter. You can get a hold of us. You can direct message us there. We're on speakpipe.com/Clean Energy Show. You can send us voice feedback, and our email address, as Brian said, is
cleanenergyshow@gmail.com.
Well, everyone out there who's listening, take care, wash your hands, and don't go stir crazy. And Brian, you have a good week.
Yeah, and we'll see everyone back here next week.
Okay, bye for now.